So let us quickly start about comparison of SQL and NoSQL. I think till now you might have got a clarity about SQL and non-SQL databases. So this is diagram self-explanatory. In SQL databases, we talk about relational and OLAPs, that is online transaction processing and all. So if we talk about NoSQL databases, we are having either key value databases, column family. Column family are actually wide columns. Here we will not be moving in row wise. Here we will be moving column wise. So this is column family databases also. So graphs are represented. Documents are organized like collection. Document 1, document 2, they are created in a collection, then collection about collections and so on. So this is document based networks also. So here we say there are different types of SQL and NoSQL databases, which basically deals with all such things. So these are the broad categories when we talk about SQL and NoSQL databases. So this quick comparison says relational database management system. It is about SQL and NoSQL is distributed environment, and SQL is vertically scalable, no, and horizontally scalable is a NoSQL. I will explain within 5 minutes about scalability, vertical and horizontal scalability, and benefits of this after once I bind up with the comparison of SQL and NoSQL. Then fixed or predefined schema is there in SQL, we have already discussed, and NoSQL is schemaless, or you can call it dynamic schema also. So SQL is not suitable for hierarchical data storage, but this is best suited for high SQL data storage, hierarchical data storage, and SQL can be used for complex queries, but a NoSQL is not good for complex queries, just like money related transactions. SQL best suits for financial transactions, but NoSQL don't suit for financial transactions. Wherever we have to implement the ACID properties, we have to use SQL. So SQL is an is established database with a very large community. Take example of ours. We are very friendly with SQL. We are using SQL languages and many SQL softwares. If I tell you to work on Oracle, you will be ready. If I say you should work on SQL Server, you will say, yes, ma'am, we can do. If I ask you to work on MySQL, you will simply say yes. But if this stage, without this workshop, I ask you, please do this code in any of the NoSQL database, like you, please work in Cassandra, work in MongoDB, work in HBase, you will be thinking critically whether you should start or not. The only reason behind that is SQL already has a large community, but NoSQL is growing rapidly. I told you since 21st century, with the growth of, with the explosion of big data and the field of data sciences, we are moving towards NoSQL databases. So NoSQL is growing rapidly. Its community is not as well as defined as SQL community. So SQL is available for major platforms, like it is available for Linux, Windows, Mac, BSD, Solaris, and with all. But NoSQL gives you the facility to change the data schema without modifying the existing data, and most of the NoSQL databases are more compatible with your Linux operating systems. But you can work with Windows and Mac also, because we have a very good machine known as virtual machine VMware that can do wonders for us on Windows also. But MongoDB we will be running on Windows 10, so don't worry for next session, because if you have Windows laptop, you can install MongoDB without any tension. So SQL is vertically scalable and it is horizontally scalable. We have already discussed. So database is open source and free. It's high performance for simple queries. Let's skip all these terms because we have already discussed a lot about SQL and NoSQL. So quickly we are switching towards next, that is scalability factor. This was the factor that I told you we must know what is scalability. So I request all of you to be attentive for the next very few minutes, because this is the very important term, scaling, because we are talking about big data sciences field these days, that is working on huge amount of data. And if we have to manage huge amount of data, then it means we should work on scalability of the servers. So scaling basically alters the size of a system. In the scaling process, we either compress the system or expand the system to meet the expected needs. The scaling operation can be achieved by adding resources to meet the smaller expectations in the current system, or by adding a new system in the existing system, or both. So we say we can do two things in this case. So those two are, let me mention over here, we say this scaling can be achieved by adding resources as per our demands, and these resources can be added to new system. At the same time, they can be added to existing system, or you can go with both. So basically it deals with adding the new resources, and the main target is to meet the data handling needs. And when we talk about data, we talk about big data, the data that is in huge amount, millions, billions and trillions. So here we say horizontal and vertical scaling. So in as you can say, in vertical scaling, it is the process of improving the processing power of the server by increasing its hardware capacity. We can add CPU, we can add RAM, because our ultimate goal is to increase the hardware capacity. So consider a rack of servers. Here we are considering rack of servers. We are having 4 racks, and these racks are here. So here we say this rack of servers and the resources that comprises of the existing system as shown in figure. While this could be possible option, there is a threshold to the hardware improvements. It's capped at what currently available. In addition, after a certain point, vertical scaling becomes too expensive. Like vertical scaling is, we are having racks, we keep on adding racks over here, 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 here and here. But there will be a limit. How many racks can be added? We are having servers, but so we say when you need to add more resources to a server rack to add to meet the expected nodes, means we are adding the resources in vertically upward direction. But if we talk about horizontal scaling, it means we need to add more servers in the system to meet the expected needs in horizontal direction. So in this case, we are adding rack 1, rack 2, rack 3, rack 4 horizontally. And when we talk about horizontally, there is no limit. Keep on adding the server over here, keep adding over here. So let us say I'm considering this. I'm adding one server over here, another rack over here, another rack over here, another rack over here, another rack over here. Keep on adding. So horizontal scaling, which works in either this direction or this direction, is easier. Horizontally scaling extends more space as compared to vertical scaling. So vertical scaling is not easy, but it is cheaper than the horizontal scaling. It also requires less time to be fixed, because we are having limited number of servers and we keep on adding the racks. But in case of this, we keep on expanding the server. So we can simply say in vertical scaling, we keep on adding the racks within the available servers. But in case of horizontal scaling, we keep on adding more servers. We keep on adding more and more and more servers as per our need. So horizontal scaling, on the other hand, achieves scaling by increasing the number of servers, where new server racks are added in the existing system to meet the higher expectation. This is known as a horizontal scaling. So in this case, we have uh, 4 servers and 4 racks. If we want to expand the capacity of our servers or our system, then we will add one more server, another server, and we can keep on adding the number of servers in a particular server, and then keep on adding the racks just like in vertical scaling. So here we say vertical scaling, it increases the power of the existing system by adding more powerful hardware, whereas horizontal scaling says adds extra identical blocks to the server. So vertical scaling is also known as scale up, and horizontal scaling is known as scale out. So this is basically called, sometimes you may hear about the term that is scale out. So that is a horizontal scaling. So the main issues with vertical scalings are additional investment should be done, and single point of failure is there. If this server fails, you have added multiple racks within this server, then your data will be lost. But if you are considering these servers scale out, then we have here in this diagram we are having 3 servers, and it is balancing the load also, it is managing the connection also, distribution of work within the units also is there. But the problem is there may be overhead of distributing the data at different servers. So at that time we need additional investment in case. So the vertical scaling and horizontal scaling says when resources are added in the existing system to meet expectation, when new server racks are added in the existing system to meet the higher expectation, it is also known as horizontal scaling. And your vertical scaling is easy to implement and horizontal scaling is difficult to implement. The reason is we have to distribute the data among different servers also. So vertical scaling is cheaper because we need not to buy new servers. We are simply adding the hardware resources like CPU or your RAM in the existing server. But in case of horizontal server, we are adding more and more servers that may consist of different rocks. So the cost of adding the servers as well as adding the racks have been added into a system. So your vertical scaling takes less time and your horizontal scaling takes more time. So next comes the term database sharding, which I have told you this is important to discuss because sharding is again a part of distributed environment. The sharding databases provides scalability. So the concept of database sharding is the key factor to the scaling. It applies to both SQL and NoSQL. Don't say that database sharding is applied to distributed environment only. It is applied to both distributed and non-distributed databases. So as its name suggests, we are slicing up. Basically, we are slicing up like we have a large pizza. And from that pizza, we are taking out the slices and distributing to different persons. Suppose I can eat full pizza without distributing, without sharing it with anyone. But suppose someday I got a large pizza, but my tummy is full and I'm not having any capacity. Then I will share my slices to with others. So similar thing is happening in database sharding. That is, we are making the slices of the data, and those slices are distributed at different servers. This is known as sharding. So it is clear from its names itself, that is multiple pieces are also known. These pieces are known as shards. So if we look at this diagram, each shard has index number. So these are index files. So we are having 1 terabyte of a database, and their index are managed at this level. And from this we have created 4 shards: shard A, shard B, shard C, and shard D of equal sizes, that is 256 each. So in this case, if we choose to index a database by shard B, if we choose to index a database by name, shard A can store the data of the users and with the names that are starting with alphabet A to F. At the same time, we got shard B, and this shard consists of databases whose names are with G to M. Likewise, let us take a example from our recent workshop that we have done. CSE department did that workshop, and in that workshop, when we received the data, we received the e-certificates. Then in that case, those e-certificates were organized in different shards. Like, there was index file that was shared with all of them. It was easy, it became easier because that common mail was distributed to all, and it was mentioned in that mail that name whose names are with A to F alphabets, they can find their e-certificate in file 1, folder 1. Those names who are from K to L, suppose, they can find their certificates in file number 2, and so on. So that was the example of sharding. See, in that similar manner, a database sharding is working. So index file will maintain all the records where which data is stored at in which of the shard. For shard C consists of database of CSC department students. Then the index key will be found over here, which will mention if you want to search the records of CSC students, then move on to shard C. And if you want to search record of IT students, move to shard D. Likewise. So this is database sharding, which is useful for scaling and quickly pinpointing. The search become faster because we have index in this case. So when a search query comes in, the database can quickly refer to the index and quickly pinpoint to the shard we look at instead of scanning the entire database. We need not to scan the entire database. We quickly look at the index file and move on to the shard, which is consisting of the data that we are looking for. So if we have to manage terabytes of data, exabytes of data, and even zettabytes and zottabytes of data, then we have to go with the sharding, database sharding. It will make the feature easier to implement the data in distributed servers. We can't distribute randomly. If we are distributing the data, we should maintain the index file, and that distribution in the distributed environment is done with the help of database sharding principle. So in this example, we have considered a table. Sharding, we say sharding is the process of breaking up large tables into smaller chunks, and these chunks are known as shards that are spread across multiple servers. So in this case, we are using one shard key. We are having 3 columns. We consider column 1 as a shard key. Then we created a hash function. I assume all of you are very much aware of hash function because we have discussed enough in RDBMS about the hash functions. So with this help of hash functions, it will create shards. So this is column 1 and then hash value for that, and then further distribution in shard 1 and shard 2 and so on. So this is the basic principle that is working behind the distribution of the data in NoSQL or big data databases, and the principle that is working behind data sciences. So here comes the broad categories of NoSQL databases, because before choosing which of the database we want to work on, suppose I tell you to work on MongoDB. Maybe MongoDB is not suitable for your graph stores. Maybe it is not suitable for Facebook. So you must know which database type you should choose. This is very important slide and very important topic before you choose your database with which you want to work. Before you choose your software, you must know which type of data you want to deal with. So please focus. It gives broad categories of NoSQL databases. The broad categories are document based, graph based, key based, and wide column stores. So if we consider a document based database, then the best example for document based database is Wikipedia, where the data is stored in form of documents or text data. Graph stores, the best example is Facebook in this case. And key value stores, this is your HBase and Cassandra databases. Your wide column is HBase and Cassandra. And let us do these all in detail. So let us start with document based data model. So in this case, we say a document database is designed to store semi-structured data. This is not unstructured. Please focus on the term semi-structured. Semi-structured. So this is semi-structured data, not unstructured. You can't use document-based databases for unstructured data. You can use these databases which are semi-structured. Semi-structured mean relational type of data that can be handled without the help of tables is known as semi-structured data. So basically here comes typically in JSON and XML format. At a collection level, this allows for putting together a diverse set of documents into a single collection. So in this case, we are having multiple documents and those documents are stored in a collection. So collection holds documents. So like we can call a database is known as collection in document based databases, and document is a table, just like a table like in our RDBMS systems. So document database allow indexing of documents on the basis of not only its primary identifier but also its properties. Then it says pair each key with complex data store, that is known as data structure. Indexes are implemented with the help of B-tree indexes. We have studied in RDBMS about B-tree indexes, that is binary tree indexes. And documents can obtain many different key value pairs. Here we work with key value pairs and key array pairs on even nested documents. So have a look at this data that is given over here. So see, below I'm having a table which says columns are ID, name, mood, birth date, and color. So in this case, we are storing the data row wise. This is a table. If we want to store it in document based database, it will look like this. It is a document. It simply says type, dog, name, name of the dog, mood is happy, birth date of the dog, color I have skipped in this case. So I have generated a key for this. This key is dog developed. So from the ID column, we are having just like a ID column, we are having key over here, and in this case document, we are having all the rows mapped with this. The best feature in this, when we will work on MongoDB, that is in the next session, then you will see we need not to create columns. We need not to define columns. We can go free of structure. You need not to define number of columns. You will simply keep on adding into columns. You keep on adding columns, and this type of data is automatically created. Like SQL throws an error. That column doesn't exist for which you are entering. NoSQL is not going to throw any error in this case. And for the best example of a document-based database, we will work on MongoDB. So similarly, you can look over here. We have added one more parameter, that is box. We have added many properties nested inside. But if we want to add this in our table, then we need to create the table, then only then we will be able to store. But in this case, we are using free form structure. Like in this case, have a look. It says person, first name, this. We are using street address. So we are using set over here. Arrays, set, each and everything, all all type of data structures can be implemented without worrying about the schema, because schema is not predefined. It is schema-less database. The best feature, beautiful feature of document based database and our MongoDB is it is free from schema boundaries. It is schema less. In the runtime environment, whatever we get, we can add on. So no impedance mismatch is going to occur in this case. See, this is the example. This I have taken from Google. This is not my own example. For reference, I have got it from Google. So courtesy go to that person. Beautiful research paper written by Mr. Ajay. I have taken it from there. This is a Facebook profile for a person named Geneva Veragas. So in this case, simply to pick from Facebook, it has written select name, pick profile URL from user where UID equal to me. So me is the function with which I have logged in into the Facebook. I have logged into my Facebook with Geneva person. Then I have written me function. So me function will retrieve all the details of this person. So next query I have written select name from friend list where owner equal to me. So wherever I am owner, it will display all the products. So select name from group where GID in, select GID from group member, that is group ID from group member where UID equal to me. So my all group members will be returned. So select message comma attachment from the whole stream where source ID equal to me. For me, whatever are the attachments, whatever are the messages from the stream and the type equal it is returning each and everything. So similar example is this. So here I have written the query. It says select name comma pick from user where online presence equal to active, means active users who are right now online on Facebook, and user ID is select user ID from friend, means my friend list where user ID equal to me. It means this query will return all of my online friends, means all of my online friends. So in this case, it is Genevera's friends. So it will return all the online friends. So see, this is the beauty, free form structure. But I told you earlier also, this is no SQL. It means SQL structure will still be there, but we are doing it differently. Data is not stored in tables. Data is there, but data is not stored in tables, but we will be writing similar type of queries. So this is a beautiful example. I hope you all understand. If you still have any queries, you can write in the chat box also. You can ask your queries about this. So next comes the key value data model. So if we talk about key value database, the key of a key value pair is unique value in the set and can be easily looked up to access the data. Access the data. In memory, caching improves application performance by storing critical pieces of data in memory for low latency access. So in this case, whatever information is cached, cache information may include the result of input-output intensive database queries and result in computationally intensive calculations. So in this case, we are having keys and certain attributes. We simply pick with the help of, like we have written, doc12. This is from previous example. It will return its value. So this is simplest NoSQL database based on the key only. Just like we perform a search on roll number key, then any of the ID. So this is key ID. Remember, IDs are unique for each and every object. Like in object-oriented databases, we discussed there is object ID. So similarly, in this case, we are having IDs. Those IDs are known as key. So these are key value pairs which can be implemented for object-oriented databases. So simplest NoSQL database, the main idea is to use hash table. Access set the strings are known as keys, and basic operations are insert, fetch and update. So here comes graph-based data model, which is implemented by Facebook also, or Twitter, or any of the social media sites. So a graph-based database stores vertical and directed links called edges. So like in a graph, we have directed edges and we have nodes. So it is storing in the form of nodes and edges between those nodes. Graphs can be built on relational SQL and non-relational SQL. Both are acceptable. So it is based on graph theory. It scales vertically. No clustering is going to happen in this case. So you can use graph algorithms easily with this. Whatever algorithms, graph algorithms you have studied in data structure, you can use all of them. And ACID properties can be implemented in graph-based networks. So next comes the column family data model. So in case of column family data model, it is also known as wide column data model. So wide column data models, we are having column based approach. So it is column oriented database in the database management system that stores data tables as columns. Now the data is not stored in rows. Like in SQL, we store the data in the form of rows, but here we will be storing the data as columns. It avoids consuming space when storing nulls by simply not storing a column when it has a null value. Whenever any column don't have any value, it will not be storing that column. So column oriented databases are the basic examples are HBase and Cassandra are the most commonly used column based networks. So the basic functions that can be implemented on columns are minimum, maximum, sum, count, average that are performed rapidly. Another benefit of this database is that it is self-indexing. It will create indexes at its own. It uses less data space because it is not storing nulls. So this is example of a case study, and I would like to thank over here Unipi. This data analysis has been taken by from an article written in Unipi by Mr. Anand. So he has provided this data using the Cassandra. So source is Cassandra for this data. Source is Unipi for this data, and the database system used is Cassandra. So if we have to process more than 50 GB of data in MySQL, then if we want to perform any write operation, it will take approximately 300 milliseconds. And the average to read the data is 350 milliseconds. Now, if the same amount of data, that is more than 50 GB, has to be processed with the help of Cassandra, then the write will take only 0.12 milliseconds. So see, MySQL was taking 300 milliseconds and Cassandra is taking just 0.12 milliseconds, and read average for MySQL was 350, and for reads average it is only 15 milliseconds. So see the beauty of this. And next type of NoSQL database, let's have a quick overview of this. If we are talking about graph databases, then we have Neo4j and Titan database that come under graph databases. Neo4j and Titan, they are graph databases, and there are many more databases also. So key value databases, Amazon's DynamoDB is a key value database. Cassandra and your Oracle Berkeley, they all are key value databases. So Oracle provides a Berkeley named database, that is a NoSQL database. So column based database, if we talk about, then they are Apache HBase and Google's Bigtable. How many, I hope you know that database which is being used by Google. I discussed in my previous lectures during our class timing. I asked about from you which database is being used by Google. Then I told you the answer at that time also, that the database is Bigtable. So which database Amazon is using? It is DynamoDB, which is NoSQL database, and Google is using Bigtable, which is again a NoSQL database. And then we have Apache HBase. Now Please listen carefully. Oracle is using, it has its own Berkeley DB. Amazon is having its own DynamoDB. Google is having Big DB, and all others are HBase is from Apache. Then we have CouchDB, and then we have MongoDB. So that's all for basics of NoSQL databases. And in the next session, very next session, within 2 to 3 minutes, we will be learning about installation about MongoDB. There will be a live demo on installation of MongoDB. So be ready within 5 minutes and join the next session.